At least my anticipation for the upcoming Baldur's Gate 3 game grew even stronger. Servus Freunde, my name's Jimmy Cage and I'm old enough to have seen the original 2000s Dungeons & Dragons disaster in the theater. It was pretty bad, but honestly, if I remember correctly, I still had some silly fun with it. But I was also just 14 years old. Just so you know where I'm coming from, I have never played the world's most famous tabletop RPG Dungeons & Dragons myself. I'm only familiar with its world through some video games like Baldur's Gate or references in other media. I didn't expect much from a new movie adaptation, but the trailer certainly looked like a lot of fun. But unfortunately, I was really bummed out about the lack of fun I had with this. And it was kind of frustrating because I felt the movie was almost there. It had a lot of the right ingredients and a good cast, but there was just something missing. It lacks that spark and energy that this kind of fantasy adventure story needs. But my biggest disappointment certainly comes down to the comedy. I just didn't find it very funny. Quite the opposite. A lot of the jokes fell completely flat for me. The movie's beginning was almost a perfect example for this. We get this nice and atmospheric introduction to this big maximum security prison somewhere remote surrounded by nothing but ice. A new prisoner is arriving. Someone gigantic. It's all done without dialogue, and the images immerse you and make you look forward to the upcoming 2 hours and 15 minutes of, hopefully, some nice and fun fantasy entertainment. That new prisoner is then taken to the cell in which our two main heroes are also kept, which are Edgin, played by Chris Pine, a good-hearted bard and thief, and Olga, played by Michelle Rodriguez, a good-hearted barbarian and also a thief. All the build up to this big muscular baddie, and it then amounts to a joke that's so old and so telegraphed that my reaction was just, oh. It wasn't terrible, but it's pretty much forecasting what's following for the rest of the movie, which was very unfortunate and a little bit surprising as Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves was directed by John Francis Daley and Jonathan Goldstein, the directors who also made the pretty funny Game Night in 2018. But that one was also written by someone else. And Daley and Goldstein also did 2015's Vacation, which I haven't seen but heard a lot of bad things about. Dungeons & Dragons was co-written by them and Michael Giglio, and unfortunately I think the comedy, the dialogues, the plotting and even the world building are all a bit lacking. Again, it's not terrible, but it's just lukewarm at best. This is a movie that I wanted to like, and I was really trying from beginning to end. The elements aren't bad, but they just never came together to amount to something really fresh and fun. I would say it's a mildly amusing film that has some neat visuals, a few good moments here and there, a decent emotional core, and a story that's not trying to be epic, but rather one that becomes big by chance. It takes inspiration, or rather it's molded after MCU team movies like Guardians of the Galaxy or The Avengers, which is pretty fitting. A team of misfits brought together by some shared goal, each one with their own little tragic backstory. I think Chris Pine and Michelle Rodriguez are nice together. Not great, but good enough. And it's clear that Hugh Grant is committing to his role and having fun with this slimy con man. He's doing what he can with the material. And so are Regé John Page, Justice Smith and Sophia Lillis. But especially the latter two I never got warm with. The team and their banter should have been the heart of the movie. And yet it never got there for me. Honor Among Thieves doesn't have the wit or the energy of a Guardians of the Galaxy. It only has the very obvious reference when it comes to that huge prison at the beginning and its design. And there's also a very noticeable reference or copy of a famous moment from the end of the first Avengers. But I have to say that there's also one of the funniest cameos I have seen in recent years. That whole scene is not just damn funny, but also kind of heartfelt. Kind of a standout. But the issue with most of the comedy is simply that the jokes are all too familiar and easy and stale. For something to really land, it should be somewhat unexpected. But here, most jokes play out exactly like you expect. So even some genuine cool scenes, like a long bit on a cemetery, feel somewhat stale, or as the screenplay just needed a bit more work. Again, I like the overall concept of making this like a fantasy heist movie. Something like Ocean's 11 meets Guardians of the Galaxy meets Lord of the Rings, in which our hero is constantly coming up with plans that then fail only to be adapted into plan B and then C and so on. And what they are coming up with for the finale is actually quite cool. But again, the execution could have been much better. And I think another problem I have with this, and this also applies to the character work, is that all of it feels so generic, which I think is kind of part of the idea of Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, to a certain degree, it should be rather generic and archetypical, but it also must put a little bit of a spin to it to make it work, and more often than not, it just feels like the typical MacGuffin quest line, big bad, powerful wizard villain, overcoming your self-doubts, character arc, and so on. It's not a disaster and it can be diverting, but I feel in different hands or with a little bit more work, this could have been so much better. So in German I'd say, der neue Dungeons & Dragons hat eigentlich keine schlechten Zutaten für ein vergnügliches Fantasy Abenteuer, aber leider ist der ganze Komödienaspekt so kraftlos und vorhersehbar und das Ganze auch etwas zu generisch, um wirklich richtig Spaß zu machen. I give Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves 5 out of 10. It's more like 5.4, but I don't do that.
He also plays the lute.
Not relevant.
Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd and also on Patreon, simply at TheJimmyCage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.